So now that you have your main menu theoretically complete and you don't really have to watch the tutorial for anything beyond this, as it's going to be completely optional and just ways to make the menu better and to stylize it and everything like that. And to begin stylizing the menu to really make it look good, the very first thing we're going to do is make, instead of having this just a gray background, we're going to have a faded background so that the player will be able to see their avatar and everything like that, but it will be a faded background. And so it's very simple, very straightforward to do this. And the first step is to go to the background frame and set the transparency property, as soon as I find it, to 1. Um, if we hit visible as false, it will also make all of our GUI disappear. So we want to find the background transparency property and type 1. This makes it so that the frame is invisible, but all of our other buttons and the sorts still stay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to lighting. And lighting is something we haven't done anything with up to this point in time. And we're going to click the little plus sign and insert a new blur effect. Now you can see that this really makes it, well, really blurry, as you would imagine. You can even increase the size drastically if you so please. And this is a preview of what our menu will look like when it actually gets done. And so to toggle this on and off, we're going to set the enable property of our blur to off. That way it stops hurting our eyes. And we're going to call it menu blur. And so now we're going to insert a new script. It doesn't really matter where. Personally, I'm going to put it in starter player and under starter character or under starter player scripts because that's where most scripts like this go. You click on the little plus sign, insert a new local script. We're going to call it menu blur. And all this is going to do is turn it on for the client, and the script runs the moment any player joins the game. And so local lighting service equals game colon get service open parenthesis lighting with a typo get service lighting. And this will get the lighting surface for us in our script so that we can reference it, which is the lighting surface we see right here. And so now we're going to say that local blur, which is our blur effect, is equal to our lighting service. Wait for child, just in case it's not loaded in yet, menu blur. And so now we're going to simply say blur dot enabled equals true. And now if we run the game, we see that when we are loaded in and everything like that, we can still move around. We'll get to that in a future video most likely, but the client can't really see anything. You see the rough shapes and colors of everything, but it's all really blurry by design. If we go to the server, we can see that it's perfectly fine, and if we turn off the UI visibility, we can see that it's exactly the way it should be. And if we go back to the client, it's really blurry. And if we hit play, then you can see that it doesn't do anything, and it's really, really blurry. And the reason for play not doing anything is that script we wrote formally that handled our play logic used the frame, which is script.parent.parent, which is our background frame, that now already has a background transparency of 1 as we set it here. So if we want to keep the blur, we would simply change it to, we could duplicate this frame or select it and press Control V, click and then shift click on the settings button to select all of its children, press the delete key, and we could go to our name property and call this frame fade. Now if we wanted to retain the fade effect that we have from the play button. We would drag this frame under our background frame and just simply type dot fade under local frame, and this tells it that it is the fade frame instead of the background frame. And now if we set the fade frames background transparency to 0 and make visible alls, then before we call between, then we can first we'll have to redo this to say script.parent.parent because we changed what frame is, and so we have to change this right here to get the background frame and not our fade frame. And now we can say that frame dot visible equals true. And so now if I hit the play button, then we press play, it will fade, but you can see it kind of just looks jumpy. And so if we want a faded or a blurry background like we have right now, we're going to have to slightly change this script. We're still going to need a function on the mouse button one click, but all of this code here is going to have to change completely, so we can just delete it. Same thing with all of this code, we can just completely delete all of it because we're not going to need any of it. We can also delete the fade frame. But if you want to keep the fade for whatever reason, that's how you do it. And so now we're going to write local lighting service equals, again, game, get service, lighting, and same thing as starter player scripts menu blur toggler. We will write local blur equals lighting service, wait for child, menu blur. And this time we're going to toggle it off when the play button is pressed. Recall that we're in the local script right beneath the play button, and so script.parent.mouse button one click is when the play button is clicked. And so we will type blur dot enabled equals false. And so now we hit play, and we places the game, and we hit play. You can see that our fade disappears, but our buttons still stay up here. And that's because I now realize that mistake, and I apologize for that. We do still need that for loop. And so we can just hit Control Z a bunch until we get to this little piece of code right here, and hit Control C to copy. And then we redo everything we just did. I'm sorry. And we'll just again write local lighting equals game get service lighting, and local blur equals a lighting wait for child menu blur. And then we change this to script.parent.parent, which is our background frame, and then we say that blur.enabled equals false. And this just means that it gets rid of all of our menu buttons when it makes the blur go away. And so now we hit play, and we can play the game. And it really just depends on the style of menu you want to go with, whether you want it to be a blurry background or how exactly you want it to look. It's ultimately up to you, but this is how you make your background blurry. From this point onward, I recommend that you pick and choose what videos you want to watch on stylizing your menu, because that's all it's really going to be from this point forward. And with that, it's how you stylize a menu in Roblox to use your background fade. And the reason that we have to have this menu blur script here is just to enable the blur on the client, because if we hand it out on the server, one person would play, and then every person that joins the game after them wouldn't have that menu blur. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, show your support. And with that, we'll talk about how to style your menu further in the next video.